Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Make sure you like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please rate this podcast 5 stars where applicable, and leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 58. We got a few announcements and a mixed bag of stuff going on tonight. We have a guest with us tonight, the Toasty Posty. Will be
Hello,
joining
everyone.
us. Hi. And I'll go ahead and let you lead off a little introduction, if you will.
I'm a regular carrier in South Central Texas area. Been with the post office since 2016. I'm 5 years regular now as of pay period 2 of this year. And I'm looking forward to adding some input to the podcast here.
Thank you. James, how was your week?
It was a lot of fun. We had the winter weather come through here, of course, and luckily I do not drive a Metris, or I'd have been stuck in a lot of places that I didn't get with my LLV. I was one of the few carriers that did not get stuck much. I got stuck Friday, though. I was having a great day and then got stuck and had to wait 2 hours. Got O-time for it, though, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, waiting to get unstuck for 2 hours really sucks.
No,
Uh,
I'm gonna
um,
say,
uh, wh-
do you mean you're glad you weren't in a Metris up in New York?
that too, but we have a Metris in our office, and they can't go down any road that has ice on it because they won't put snow tires on it, and they won't, take care of get us a vehicle that can actually make it through the snow like that. I know that front wheel drive Metris vans are actually better in the snow than the rear wheel drive that they gave us, but I digress. I did get stuck because another carrier got spun out in front of me and blocked the road. That was funny. I turned down the corner and here's a mail truck sitting sideways on the road, nose up against the ditch, tail sticking out over the lane, so I couldn't fit by. And tried to push it with mine, but it was a no-go because it was too slippery. Finally, somebody came with a four-wheel drive and yanked the back end of it around so I could get through. And just taking it easy, nice and careful. And I delivered my route every single day this entire week while other people were bringing stuff back. So I was really proud of that. May have taken me a little longer, but that's okay. And not really much else happened. Didn't get an update on my grievance, even though my ADR had a conversation with management over it. They haven't given me an update on it. But that's pretty much been my week. How about you, Josh?
My week was not too bad. But the reference I made about with New York was apparently up in New York, a Metris van caught fire. Supposedly the battery that's under the driver's seat ignited or exploded somehow. That being said, we also had a Metris in my station that the mechanic was there in the morning working on the brakes. The carrier took off to start delivering, called back, talked to the station manager. I don't know what exactly was said, how it was translated, but it was smoking from the from the right front tire. He told her to come back. She came back and there's smoke flying everywhere. And by the time I rode outside with my gurney to start loading my vehicle, the rotor around by the rotor is in flames. Luckily, someone grabbed a fire extinguisher and was able and got it out before there was any damage. So except for fire extinguisher dust all over it, the fire looked fine. Bill, how was your week?
uneventful, surprisingly. We're short of clerks, so the supervisors are throwing packages on the belt for the sorting machine we have in our office. I questioned the supervisor on Monday in regards to all my forwards coming back. Gave them to them all. I'll take care of them. Tuesday, they all came back. I gave them back to the same supervisor. I don't understand. I don't. Okay. Wednesday, they came back again. I gave them to a different supervisor. They, oh, I don't know what's going on. And Thursday was fine. And then Friday, I got at least 4 inches of return mail that all had FWD in there. I guess that meant front wheel drive because they didn't get forwarded. And I directly addressed this with the postmaster. And the postmaster says to me, oh, they're doing something up at the plant. And I said, that's fine. How did it end up in my clerk mail? Well, no, it couldn't happen. I said, I'm sorry. I pulled it out of the hot case. How could it not be clerk mail? And she goes, you must be mistaken. I looked at her. I said, that's the second time you've called me a liar. And I walked away from her because it is the second time. The third time, I'll be getting an EP because I'll fly off on this person. They are the most incompetent, lazy management crew I've seen in 26 years. It's frustrating to the point of, what can I say? Well, I can't say what I want to say. Surprisingly, though, Amazon's been light this whole week as far as the parcels concerned. The Spurs are still running 10 to 14 trays a day, but the parcels have really been in the 40 and less range every day of the week. So I guess everybody's run out of money for Christmas or they're used up all their gift cards already because when I get one hamper, that's a light day for me.
I hear you. My Amazon's been fairly late this week too. And it's funny what you're saying about getting mail in through your clerk mail with the forward sticker on them that just says forward. I'm assuming you're talking about flats, correct? With the
Letters.
Oh, letters. Now I was getting my flats back and my helicopter flats and my route sorted flats. The case that comes, or the tub that comes to my case. I had a couple days this week and I was like, wait a minute, I put these in for forwarding and they had the little forwarding barcode on all the flats.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I've gotten those 2 or 3 times this past week like that too. So
I did get a bundle like that where I had 8 flats and they were all polys and all of them written on there forward, UTF, RTS on each one, not the top one or anything like that, on each one, and they all came back and I just shake my head as I hope we get this during the mini mail survey.
Right? Oh yeah, I've many times have had stuff that I've tossed back into that throwback or into the 3M and it comes right back to me within a couple days. Like it never even got processed the way it was supposed to at the plant.
Or it never left the office.
That too. No, actually I've had stuff coming back in my DPS, so I know it left the office if it was in the DPS. That's what gets me. But
How dare you? The plant can do no wrong.
No, never. I just have the Metroplex out of Detroit. Shout out to the Metroplex. Yeah, you. I'm talking about you. Anyways, my week wasn't too bad. I had another shadow day on Wednesday. I am trying not to be overly optimistic about this person, but I think I found a keeper. We'll see. He goes to Academy this week, but he was already connecting out on the route the stuff that I was explaining to him in the office at the case. And he was verbally telling, oh yeah, this was what you were talking about. I was already connecting it on his shadow day. We did talk a lot. We had some good laughs. I forgot a couple packages to deliver because we were talking and had some good laughs. So I'm like, and this is what we do when we forget a package or we miss one. And went and had to go take care of those before we headed to the next part of the route. But other than that, yeah, Thursday was a super late
You
day.
didn't forget them. You did it for a training moment.
Well, I didn't mark my packages either. So yeah, I forgot them.
And remember the golden rule. if you forget it, it's the sub's fault or trainee's fault.
Eh,
If you if they forget it, it's going to be blamed on the regular.
He actually did apologize. I am so sorry to you that I got you preoccupied, distracted. I'm like, oh no, it's all right. It was thick fog out that day too, so I was actually trying to pay attention and see if there was actually cars coming that didn't have headlights on in thick fog. So, because people are stupid like that. But so yes, people out there, if you're listening and you're driving in thick fog, please put your headlights on. Thank you. But
Or the people who are driving close to sunset and they think they can see well enough without their headlights doesn't mean other people can see you. Turn the damn
exactly.
lights on, you know?
And then come Thursday morning, I wrote up the LLV that we had for Wednesday because the LLV assigned to the aux routes one with the jump seat in it, and so we just trade with the aux carrier that day when we need it. I had to write it up for transmission issues, and I handed it to the postmaster specifically on Thursday morning, and I then told her that yes, it was very, very slow all day. And so when I got to the end of the route and turned back onto US 23 to drive the couple miles back to the office, I put the pedal to the floor and it still was barely at 35 miles an hour within a quarter to a half mile down the road. Yeah. So I said, yeah, I need that truck fixed because we actually have 2 more shadow days in my office coming up this week, Tuesday and Wednesday. 2 more routes, and being the OJT in the office, I better get mine trained because I'm gonna be busy.
With a wrench, you can just take it out of one truck and put it in another.
Hmm. Yeah, that no, our office wouldn't do that. They would send it to our contracted garage and have them do that and actually pay whatever they charge to do it. But they won't do that. They won't take it out of the one truck and move it around. So
I'm just
Really
saying.
down there.
I'm very well aware it can be moved from truck to truck to truck. That's but they
It's our one supervisor does it just because it's, even though the VMF is the one that's supposed to be doing it, because it's just easier for him to get in there with his wrench and pull it out, move it over to the
Mhm.
other truck, and then put it back in.
Yeah, no, they won't do it. So
Actually, half the time they sit somewhere in the back of the office, not even in a truck.
and a lot of offices do that, but ours does not. Just saying.
That, and watch out. The last time I had a truck that had transmission issues, I've never saw it again.
Yeah. We'll see what
Yeah, my
happens.
truck that got towed in back in August.
Mm-hmm. You never got it back.
No, they reassigned it to the other office.
All right, so I'm going to start off. We received a voice message on our Spotify, just questioning some things that we talked about on the last episode. So I'm going to play that real quick here. Let me pull it up again. And then I will and then we will go ahead and just kind of discuss what they were talking about or questioning again. And that way they'll know when they're listening this week. So let me go ahead and play this.
When you're saying do the scans on the very last post that you did in the field around the post office, what exactly are you scanning? Because I don't think I've ever scanned anything outside the post office other than out on my route. And what are you talking about? The red marker and marking out the barcodes on the mail. I don't get it. I don't understand.
With that, with the scanning outside of the geofence, which is the perimeter of the parking lot and the building, if you have a package, let's say, for example, it's a no access for whatever reason, or no one's home, or you missed a package and
It didn't
you
clear off the end of day. Even though you scanned it, it didn't clear off the end of day when you get back to the office.
for integrity purposes, you're not supposed in the afternoon, and it may vary from location to location. I know we were told 3 p.m. Anything 3 p.m. and later cannot be scanned inside the post office. So when you come back in the afternoon, you should not have any packages or barcodes that have not been scanned prior to you coming back in. What I was talking about with the red marker is what they called dead mail, stale mail, old mail, anything that should have been delivered prior to the day. If I bring it back or if it's closed business on Saturday, what they wanted us to do is with the marker, put a line through the barcode. So if I get an SPM on Monday for that address, I'm not scanning that letter. And what they actually did yesterday, is they gave us a printout that says, this is old stale mail, do not scan it for an SPM. So any business, any mail that was residual from Saturday, I'm supposed to bundle it in that sheet of paper and then put all the rest of the mail for that address. And then if I get an SPM, I'm only scanning the mail that's not within that, that I don't have cupped in that paper. Hopefully
So-
that clears that up. I don't know. Do any of you guys have anything you wanted to add in this regard?
Well, I was just going to clear on it's the thing that the directive that's come down to many places on the scanning parcels after 3 p.m. in the office. So, like I was saying before, if something doesn't clear on the end of day, even though you may have had to manually enter it in out of route, or you did scan it, but for some reason it never fell off the end of day, because we all know what happens from time to time. And you can't enter that in at the office. They want you to go off site. It's that geofencing around the office that you need to go outside of in order to clear that parcel off of the end of day. And then with the SPM scans, it's just his office wanted them to mark off the barcode for something that was, so you're only scanning the current day's mail that comes in under that SPM and not anything that was either brought back or was on hold or a business closed from previous days.
Right. And I just wanted to clarify, you had said manually scan. What Chris is talking about is in the regular scan screen, you type in the number. You're not going back to the main screen and going down to manually input. No one should ever use that, because with that, you have to put a date and time. And with that, they can say you're falsifying those scans.
So the inside on this, why they're doing this, is not because of carriers. Let's make that clear. The integrity scans that they're talking about is not because of carriers. This came about because there were managers that were turning around and inputting scans on carrier deliveries that were missed or were not delivered, and scanning them as customer hold or no access, things like that, and basically falsifying scans. Management mostly was the ones doing that. Granted, there were some carriers that probably were, we do not know for sure, but 99% of it was management falsifying information. So it came down from district that it's no longer going to happen inside the offices, and management turned around and put it on the carriers as the onus of who has to deal with it. So unfortunately, they may turn around and say, well, you're going to have to go back out and knock on the door if you didn't scan it, things like that. Better make sure they're paying you for doing that as well.
And understand that geofence is an invisible boundary creating a perimeter of your post office that scans will show up as being basically falsified. And that's why they want you to drive like a quarter mile, half mile away from the building and all that. Unfortunately, in my office, they have somebody that turns around and says, if you want that scanned, here you go. Here's my keys. You go do it. I'm not. I'm not falsifying the information. Period. Whenever you do have a situation where you have a package that you inadvertently missed, specifically like a spur that fell out of a tray into the wheel well on the opposite side of the truck, your best bet is to scan no access, because then you're not required to leave a 3849 for it either, which is one of the corrections they finally made on that, because when they first came up with this system, if you put no access, they actually wanted you to fill out a 3849. And if I didn't have access, where am I going to put the 3849, folks?
Or, hopefully, like many of us, I always double check my truck before heading back to the route or heading back to the office. And if I miss something, I try to deliver that before I get back to the office. So, But yeah, if you're in my office and you miss it, and management will send you back out to deliver it. So, but
And
basically,
that's their right.
yes, it is.
Yep, sure is.
That's why
Yeah.
I like to use the load truck feature and then use the package look ahead to see what I actually have and what I actually don't have.
That helps at
You're
times, too.
presuming that actually works.
Yeah, if it's working that day. If it's not, then yeah, I'll usually, if at my last stop, I'll double check all my tubs, make sure I didn't have anything left behind, and then if I have something that I missed, I'll put it as no access too. But
Yeah, I'm just not going to waste my time with the load truck feature.
Yeah,
I'll
I
tell you
don't
what,
either.
the load truck feature is nice if you have a label that's screwed up and you can't read where it goes, or UPS slaps one of their stickers over where the address is, so
Mhm.
and then when you peel it, you can't. The load truck gives you not only the sequence, what section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but what the sequence number is and the physical address that it goes to.
Yep.
So the only times I use load truck is in that situation, or when I have that big, large, heavy box in the back and I can't see the label. I forget exactly where it goes, but I can't see where the label is from the driver's seat. I can go to load truck, reach back and scan it from the driver's seat and see, okay, I know this is on my next block, or this isn't until my next neighborhood. Just as a reminder to me, instead of having to dismount and go to the back and turn it around, look at the label again, and then rearrange everything and start going again. Because I know I've missed them a couple of times, not seeing, not thinking to look at the big, huge, heavy box, but looking at all the other parcels I have, and then ending up having to loop around at the end of the route for the big, heavy one.
Could
I
just be
haven't
that
had to.
freak of nature like me and not use a load truck, and very rarely look at your package look ahead, except for maybe at the end of the route to make sure
Oh,
it
I don't
was
look.
clear and not mark a
I
single
don't.
thing.
You and I have talked about this before. I miss them when I mark them. What makes you think I'm gonna get it right without marking them?
Right.
That's one.
Except for on my shadow days, and we're talking and laughing and having a good time, and then yeah, I tend to my brain ain't functioning quite right then. But yeah.
I only mark my curbside delivery now because everything else is CBU, so I kind of sort them as I get to the locations.
Yeah, gotcha.
My first neighborhood is only 70 addresses, and at 2x3 grid. So when I first pull it, while I'm waiting for the truck to warm up enough and go through at least one cycle, so it doesn't bottom out on me when I'm trying to drive down the road and feel like it's going to stall, I'll sort them out real quick and line them up in order, because I deliver them the parcels before I get to the CBU, to the door. My second one is the condos, which we talked about in the past, which have 200 units with 2 teeny tiny parcel lockers. So I have to drive around that whole neighborhood to deliver the parcels. So I just put them in the on the left side, on the in that step well, and then sort them after I deliver the mail at the CBU.
I
Then
guess
my
that's where
apartment.
I'm lucky though, is because I only have 2 of my condos. Only 2 dismounts I have for my CBUs. The rest of them I can access right from the truck. So it's a little different for me on my end. Like every route has its own individuality. So we're gonna move on though.
Right. Well, I only have, of almost 1,000 addresses, I have less than 300 curbside. The rest of it CBU. So
Yeah, see, mine's different. I have 686 curbside and only 101 CBU boxes. So I get that.
right. Well, I've said it in the past. I'm truly on a city route.
All right, James, you had an announcement?
Well, 2 of them actually now.
Okay.
But the very first one I want to announce is, at the graciousness of Bill, I'm going to make the attempt to make it to Southwest Area Conference
Yay,
in Oklahoma.
punk buddies.
Yeah, so we're going to be there, and if you're going to SWAC, meet us there and hang out, talk with us. We'll be there to answer questions and chat with you about our candidacy for it. The other announcement I have for that is next week's episode of this podcast will be a Q&A with the candidates running for office. We have a Google form for you to ask questions. So if you want to hear your question asked and answered on this podcast, we're going to try and get as many of them in as we can. Fill out the Google form, and we'll try and get your question answered here on the podcast with each of the candidates. It'll be Bill for president, Kristen for vice president, and myself for director of steward operations. So get your questions in, and we'll try to answer them all for you.
And you can find that Google form on our Facebook page and as well as in our Facebook group. I do believe I had them pinned as featured in the group, and I know they are on the page. We do have several questions already that have been submitted, so get them in, guys, and we'll be happy to address them next week for sure.
And I did respond to the one we saw today that James prompted me on. So
yes, we do also have on our Discord server, we do have a channel just for asking questions to the individuals. So that is also available as well.
And please, no more pink thong questions. It's true. I won't deny it.
All right. So where are we going from now, James? I know.
I mean, the biggest thing that we want to take everybody to take away from this is we have people trying to listen to the craft and make it better for the craft. The biggest thing is if you want to ask questions of how we're going to do that, you need to fill out that form so we can announce it live on the next recording that we do. And if you're part of our Discord, you can actually listen to the recording of the show prior to it being posted on our podcast platforms on our Discord server. We actually have a live stage with audience members for you guys to listen to us. So,
and this is kind of like our own public caucus, so to say. So for those that are unable to go to national convention or won't be able to be a delegate, but still want to get the information and talk to the people that they're voting for as delegates to say, hey, check these people out. They were asked this and this is how they answered. This is kind of like our own public caucus in a way.
This all goes back to, the delegates. Okay. And, I filled my delegate form out and mailed it in. Everybody who wants to attend the national convention needs to fill out that delegate form and send it to your appropriate secretary treasurer or whatever PO box you're operating out of in that state, and become a registered candidate to be elected. as a delegate. And with that, you have to remember you don't have to vote for all 44, 47, 50, 22 available delegates. You can only vote for yourself and for those who reflect and agree or align with your views in regards to what direction we need to take this union in. The past 20 years, we've seen how the national board has just been a musical chair fiasco where we just keep handing it down to the next person in line according to the loyalties of the gang of 9, for there's 9 positions up there. And it hasn't served us well. It hasn't served the craft well. I still go back to the point where Ronnie Stutt stood there and defiantly said, "We will not implement Rex until we have full transparency." Well, we don't have full transparency. Ronnie Stutz is gone. We have a new president. Transparency is still not available. And as late as yesterday, we still had people asking, what are the reports that they're supposed to have? Well, management's required to put the radar reports up. You shouldn't have to ask for them. But if you do have to ask for them, get your grievance form out, your 8191, and fill it out and file. It is your local steward, your area steward, your ADR. If you need to go to your DR or even your NRO, then get it filed because you're entitled to that information. With the upcoming mini mail survey and the fact that we still don't have resolution to some of the first survey disputes, we need clarity. We need transparency in regards to where our values are in evaluating our routes. You might not call it a count anymore, but it's basically a count. Now we have mini mail survey as the what do you call it? The nomenclature in regards to how we are being paid. Folks, if you're not paying attention, if you're not on the website, if you're not on Rural Infonet or any of the multiple websites out there for rural carriers and rural carrier associates, union and non-union, okay, you're not taking advantage of that information that's available to you, you're only hurting yourself. And unfortunately, down the line, you'll be hurting the person behind you who may be taking that route when you bid off of it. So look out for yourselves, look out for the people behind you, look out for the people next to you. And with that, I'd have to ask Kristen, because this is not something that's going on in the PA2 district. What are they training the new people in regards to the academy with regards to Rex? Are you training people with Rex?
Honestly, that's a good question for the academy instructors themselves. I know last year they were given the addendum to Rex scanning. They did not have enough copies to give every new person at the time. So it was, from my understanding, when I last talked to an academy instructor about the Rex scans, and now this has been a while, I will definitely be going back and asking my academy instructor friends to double check, and I will clarify next week what I find out and information wise. But my last time I knew that with the Rex scans, it was only a 15, 20, maybe 30-minute explanation. It wasn't in depth or anything. Now, our last new RCA that came into the office, I did not train. Our old trainer trained him on his route. So, but I know even on my shadow day, I was kind of going over the scans on my shadow day with my new sub. Unfortunately, I won't have him for on the job training for a couple weeks. Like I said, he will be in academy this week. And then he is actually already, it was a pre-planned, will be out of town the following week. So I will start training him on Saturday the 10th. And on Monday, yes, I will be OJTing on Monday. Only because I will be gone on Tuesday, and then we'll be picking it back up. He is actually going to be splitting the route with a borrowed RCA that has ran part of my route in the past. On Tuesday he will be doing part of it on his own, and then Wednesday I will be back in the truck with him. But no, I was even already kind of going over the scans a little bit when he came in. Again, they don't have him in my office come in till half hour after start time, which is really, I think it sucks, honestly, because you can't go over that. This is, grab your scanner, this is where you would grab our keys. This is what we do when we log in and go over that whole thing with them. That really bummed me out. I was actually already done casing flats by the time he got there. So, I did try and go over as much as I could with him as we were doing it. So I will definitely be going into more in-depth training when he gets in the office again. But as far as academy, I will double check with my academy instructor friends and see how much of academy is actually on the recs. And that is also one thing that I want to look at too is, I mean, that is a daily importance of the job. I think it needs to be more than just a quick little overview.
Well, in the
Well, and
comments, Kristen, IOU One Now said last year they taught nothing except the basic 6 up until September.
Okay,
The manuals had absolutely zero info about Rex.
gotcha. Yeah, that's been the one thing that I heard was a couple of the instructors that I know were actually printing out their own materials and taking them in to go over it with them.
and
Okay.
there's a problem right there because it's management's responsibility, and nobody's making management accountable for that. Now, in lieu of that, being rural carriers, we need to step up to make sure that if you're training somebody, that that we train them on what we know, what's available. And if you're like in my office, all you gotta do is walk over to me. I have a ton of paperwork piled up at my case in regards to Rex. And if you get that carrier in after 2 pay periods comes to your route, again, drum it into their head about the Rex. Give them another copy. I have that sheet. Here, have another one. Doesn't hurt to have, one to read in the bathroom downstairs, one to read upstairs, one to read in your car. If you don't commit it to memory, you won't put it into action. And if you don't put it in action, it doesn't go in your wallet.
And this is where this is going to be interesting for me with this new RCA in training. Like I said, I'm actually really looking forward to training him. He seems very gung-ho on this. He learns, he's more of an audible person. I was asking him how he best learns, even on Shadow Day, just so I can get a feel for him. He also has a photographic memory. It was, like I said, he was connecting stuff right out there. Super intelligent. I really looking forward to this. Mini mail survey coming up February 24th through March, what, guys? 8th?
8th.
March 8th.
Yeah, I want to say 8th.
All right, yes. That first weekend of March 1st, is I will be gone for my personal weekend away, my Tattoo Expo weekend, as I go every year. And then March 8th weekend, I will be gone for our state spring booster. I will be pounding in Rex while I have him, because then he is going to be running my route while I'm training the other 2 new RCAs as well. And I will be gone. So
I can't stress enough that everybody has a piece of this pie in regards to training, regardless of how you case your mail, how you do your sortations for parcel spurs, whether you use load truck or not. Every time you get a trainee on your route, instill in them the importance of the Rex, and make them as educated as you are, so that the route gets true evaluation, and you don't have to sit there and worry about it when you go on your tattoo weekends or your states, or minis conference, whatever. Doesn't matter. Educate them. The only thing you're doing is protecting yourself.
exactly.
And a more intelligent trainee is a dangerous trainee for management.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to it. He is very gung ho about this job. I will talk more about him once I start getting him trained. But even just my one day with him on Shadowing Day, I was like, we've got to keep her. As we all know, we can tell almost from the moment we meet them whether they're gonna make it or not. Am I right, guys?
Yep.
For the
13 for
most part.
13.
For the most part. And once he went in that case and describing after meeting him and talking and the whole time on the route and afterwards, oh yeah, I've got to keep her. And like I said, I'm trying not to be overly optimistic, but I am thrilled. I'm going to be really curious. Like I said, there's another shadow coming in on Tuesday for Route 4 and one for R11 on Wednesday. I will see how those two tend to be. But I think if everybody works out, fingers crossed, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4 really, really good RCAs. I did let the kid know. I said, "You do realize," I said, "that you are going to be the one helping these new RCAs once they get out on these routes by themselves after I've trained them." I said, "You are going to be the one that's going to be going out there and assisting them and rescuing them." And he just kind of got the big smile on his face. I said, "You got to realize it took some of us years to get to that point. It only took you a couple months."
And yeah, you should always advise them when they help others, they get a 5% boost in pay. And then they look at you and you start laughing at them, No, I'm kidding.
No, I won't do that to him. I won't do that to him. No, he's a good kid. He is.
You
He
won't
is.
even get an attaboy or anything.
No, he's going on a route that
Yeah,
he's
he
only
will.
ran.
Kristen will give him that, a boy.
He's going to be on a route tomorrow that he's only ran parts of here and there. He did part of it Saturday. He had a bad day Saturday. I won't even get talking to that discussion, but I have it worked out with the supervisor because this is the one that I did not train. He and I are going to go. We have been approved to go in early tomorrow morning. Instead of 7:30, we're going to come in at 7:15. I got a text and remind him, and I will be assisting him getting the mail ready to go for that other route that he really hasn't had much experience on. Like I said, he's gone out and helped on it and seems to like it then, but when it comes to casing and whatnot, he does not have a lot of. So this will also give me a chance to see how much more work on the certain aspects that he needs as a newer RCA, since I did not train him myself, to see, okay, where are these other things that we can work on with you to get you even above where you're at now. So, and that way will be available to help the other three once they get out on their own.
I kind of miss my bunk buddy. James, you still there?
Still here, but I was letting Kristen talk about training because that's an important part of the vice president's position is the training and retention of carriers.
Definitely. I mean, and that's what, I kind of, because I talk about my postmaster once in a while, and there's a couple of us, she really just, it's like she doesn't want fun and people to be happy and enjoy their time at work with each other type thing. It's, one of those miserable situations. And you've got myself and my work husband and his casemate, and then his casemate sub, which is the kid. And we all get along great. We can all joke and laugh and have a good time when we're all in the office together. And my new sub's going to fit perfectly in with that, with sense of humor, and it's going to be great. We're going to drive her crazy because locomotion will come up on the radio and we'll all just get in that conga line and do locomotion around the office when we're waiting on parcels to be thrown. So
Why can't you rural carriers just behave yourself and quit causing trouble for the postmaster?
and you have a narcissistic bipolar postmaster, you gotta have fun with her. All right, guys, I'm off my box now.
Well, with what Josh just said, the biggest thing that carrier should know is exactly who their designated union representative is.
Mm-hmm.
These stewards should be getting out and going into these offices and meeting these new carriers. They should be getting involved with these carriers, getting up there and personal with them, giving them their business card, especially for area stewards, ADRs, DRs, the people that are supposed to be the face of this craft and the face of this union and fighting tooth and nail for every carrier should be out there taking the time to meet the new people and telling them, if you have questions, give me a call, things like that. And when they call them, they should be responding to them as efficiently as possible. And then when a carrier files a grievance, they should be fighting for every inch they can give that carrier and not settling for language that already exists with terms like will comply, will follow, will adhere to, things like that. They should be fighting tooth and nail for these carriers, and they should have somebody at the top who's fighting just as hard as they are at the bottom. Because the only way that we can make sure that every single carrier here is educated is to have training that gets them where they need to be and stewards who will back them up.
Academy instructors, I have a question for my academy instructors out there. As you know, I am stepping up to run for vice president again. And I know this kind of came across to me when I ran 2 years ago as well, when it came to academy and updating. If y'all could reach out, whether that be an email, a direct message, either to myself or the podcast page, on what type of things that you would like to see improved in the academy. What type of new materials, what type of new programs, something that you would like to see that would be instituted in the academies across the board that would help with the training and the retention of these new RCAs. I'm going to ask on that. I mean, seriously, I want to know.
Especially for those of us that are OJIs, we're trying to wonder where these kids are starting at. How much do they know of the RRECS scans? How much do they know of the job and everything else that goes with the job?
And I agree. As the as the OJI in the office, I completely agree with that. I want to know exactly what they're being taught. Like I said, I'm lucky enough to know who the instructor is for my new RCA next week, but that doesn't mean, I don't know what the curriculum is that they have out there now, and what they need to fill in the gaps of the stuff that we do. I mean, I know Academy is probably not anything like it was when I went to Academy 9.5 years ago. Well, a little over 9 years ago.
And
And
that's the first place that we can start educating the new carriers in regards to the contract, recs, their rights, their responsibilities. And that's an important, function for the academy instructors to make sure that these people have access to that information.
I agree,
It's
100%.
critical. It's critical.
It is, and especially with Rex, and that's the biggest thing is these Rex scans. When you've got management that was, when this first came out, and it's only the 6 scans, and then, I was lucky enough that I was able to train my carriers or present to my carriers the additional stuff, and I still answer questions in my office on the additional scans to carriers when they ask, because they may be unsure. It usually has to do with box holders or walking sequence or something of that nature. But, I reminded another carrier of mine, make sure when you shut your vehicle off is when you hit return to unit, because you don't do it when you do it in the office. Only because I was in the office when he came in the one day and I noticed that's when he hit return to DU, and I'm like, no, you're cheating yourself out of some time there, dude.
Yeah, before you get out of the truck, before you take the mail to dispatch, you hit the return to DU. Get that
all the
time.
time that it takes to unload
Well-
your vehicle at the end of the day, all your outgoing mail, all your trays and buckets, all of that is under and return to docking unit and before clocking out.
Yep.
And for the
As
new
soon as
RCAs
you
and,
hit,
and even some of the established carriers, there is a whole list of end of shift duties on there that is available off the website for you to have at your case. So whenever questioned or challenged, you can give it to the supervisor, the postmaster, whoever, and show them these are duties that you are required to perform at the end of your regular duties delivering the route.
yep, you hit that
And you
button as
do
soon
that.
as you put the vehicle in park.
Yep. And before you and you do all that before you do anything for PM casing or clocking out.
One thing we're lucky is the only PM casing the only time we use that PM casing in my office is for second trips when needed, because everything that comes in that day goes out that day, and we don't get an afternoon truck with any drop-offs. And I can probably count on one hand how many times we've been allowed to curtail mail in that office in the 5 years I've been there. So, but yeah,
Well,
it's
unfortunately, in Westchester, we have curtailment based on, let's say, certain factors. So we
yes,
have
yes.
people that are allowed to and others that aren't, and the ones that aren't allowed don't file grievances. And I just tell them, well, that's on you because you have the right to say this is disparity of treatment.
We
Yes.
used to be able to case our advos the day before, but they stopped that about 2 years ago after COVID.
Yeah, see, and our advos have, even though they say deliver for the date on Tuesday, they've been coming in on Saturdays. They come in on Saturday, they go out on Saturday. Whether or not we deliver them all is up to us. If we want to split them halfsies, I'm sorry, my advos are coming in Saturday. They're going to go out on Saturday because I do not want to have to deal with them on Monday. However, with a brand new RCA coming in and an advos show up on Saturdays as they have been, I will let management know he does not have to take them if he doesn't want to, because I don't want to lose him. If take him for a ride and bring him back, I will then do them on Monday. He ain't gonna get that free pass for only maybe a couple months, but after that, I'm not gonna have a brand new RCA that's only been out of academy and in training and only been out for, on his own for a week, maybe 2 weeks tops, getting stuck with having to do advos on Saturday. I don't want to do that to him. I wouldn't. Now, if he's all gung-ho and thinks he can do it, because mine have been coming addressed. We had one route yesterday. We had 2 routes that were not addressed yesterday. Mine were addressed. And even my businesses have started to get them before again. And in the past, my businesses weren't getting them. It was just residential. So yeah, I'm not going to do that to a brand new RCA.
When they're not addressed, do you get a separate card?
No.
Wow.
Whoa.
Lucky.
The only ones
Well-
that have gotten separate cards in the past, and it was not even an all the time thing, was the city side. Rural never got the separate cards. Now in my old office, yes, we got the separate cards. But in this office, no, we've never gotten the separate cards. And yeah.
I think in all my years, the red plums came once unaddressed without a card, and then I've had where they were addressed with a card. That really sucked.
No, with halfsies, if you don't deliver them all because it's putting you behind or you want to bring them up, you only get the full coverage once. You don't get the scan 2 days in a row, just once. That's the only downfall to that. But again, you're not delivering them all unless you have another full coverage the next day. Don't get me started on when I was an RCA who borrowed RCA, had a full coverage, only delivered half, came in the next day, had another full coverage on top of the half a full coverage, and finished up the other one, only delivered half, and then I walk in with advos and another half of full coverage the next day to do. Don't get me started on that. So yeah, I think if you have a full coverage, you do it that day. I mean, there are instances where if you are too far behind, you need, and it's going to be too late putting you out because it's just one of those days that yeah, finish them up the next day. But I don't like doing that if I can't help it.
Well, I just want to let everybody know if you haven't seen it, it's on the RCA Facebook page and Rural Carriers Facebook page that I put the announcement in regards to running for president, and have gotten quite a bit of hits on the one, and support off of my own Facebook page too. And I just want to let people know that I'm not doing this for myself because of the fact that I've more than qualified for retirement. I've got the money put away. I'm doing this because I go in on Monday and I hate the thought of going in the office. And as soon as I get on my route, my mood changes and I'm a happy person again. Because I love delivering my mail, even in bad weather and everything. I love seeing my people. I love seeing the customers, the kids, the dogs, and all that. And I love the craft. I love the people who go out there and go through the grind every day, weather conditions, management, whatever. And I'm running for president because I want these people to be able to go to work free from hostile work environments, free from intimidation, to have the dignity and respect of the job that they're performing every day, while people are sitting on their asses making decisions in regards to their careers and their livelihood. I do not want another carrier to ever suffer some of the horror stories that I've seen on social media. I do not want to see a carrier ever suffer an EP like one of mine did, and I got his job back for him, but then have a DR turn around and say, we got his job back, but he can't have any back pay for 4.5 months. As a grandparent, as a parent, I always hated these words. Some assembly required, batteries not included. As a carrier with a grievance, the words I hate are settled for language. When we install a new director of steward operations, I do not ever want to see a grievance that says settled for language. The only language I want to hear is the carrier will be compensated. Period. If we're going to work in this environment with these incompetent management, with these hostile district managers or OICs, PMs, I want them to pay. So as president, I don't ever want to see that language on a grievance. That is the language of the last resort. And hopefully, James, as the director of steward operations, will never ever write that language into a grievance at a step 3 or step 4.
The only way I want to settle for language is if there is absolutely zero existing language that grievance is being fought over. Because we have language going back over 100 years, and we're turning around and settling for a slap on the hand to management. I don't think so. Management's had enough slaps on the hands. Management's had enough finger wagging from leadership. It's time to put our boot down and say, we've got this language. You failed to follow this language. Now it's time to pay the rural carriers for you failing to follow that language. Enough's enough. We've been soft-handed on them, and I've heard articles and read articles all the way back into the 70s where the exact same language was used by management, and yet we're still turning around and playing with them with kids' gloves, playing touch football with them. I don't think so. We are adults. Our carriers are adults. Management is a whole group of adults. and you can argue some of them don't act like it, but it's time to be adults and time for us to settle it like adults. And if you made a mistake, pay up for it.
Toasty, what is your take on what these two gentlemen just said?
I'm right with Bill. I love the job. The job itself, I enjoy doing every day. I could do it all the way through retirement age if I needed to. I absolutely love the people I work with. I love my customers. I love most of my dogs as long as they're not aggressive with me. And I want that for everyone. I want that for all our RCAs. I want that for our PTFs. I want that for our ARCs. I want everyone to come in, be able to do their job, do it with pride and integrity, and not be bothered by management micromanaging and sitting behind a desk reading reports. Right now, our current board is just reading reports just like management. We know the numbers are down. We know this, we know that, because they're looking at spreadsheets just like management. It's time that we start putting people in office that actually know the experience, actually have experienced COVID, have experienced the boost in e-commerce that we've gotten since then, that have experienced RX. And my job as committee person, should I get it, is to back up Bill and to do everything that he sends down to me. And I will do that. I will do that with an honesty and integrity and to the utmost ability that I have.
Just heard that right. You are considering running for executive committeeman of the National Board?
Correct.
Yay. Let's go, Toasty.
I'll post something like Bill did on all the groups too, to go ahead and let people know that we're here. We're ready for this change. We're ready to step up. I honestly don't want to step away from my route because it is a 4-year commitment. But like I've heard James say before, the needs of the craft are greater than my own.
And that's my perfect sentiment. I have nothing left to gain, in regards to working, okay, financially, okay, the satisfaction I get all the time. And unfortunately, I don't have a great office, but it it functions okay in regards to relationship with other carriers. But that was one of the things that, being a steward twice in my office, I've learned that you have to disassociate your personal likes and dislikes for the people that you're representing.
Mhm.
I won a gentleman a $950 settlement, and it took 9 months in the making to get it. When he got the payment and it said on their grievous payment included, he came over to me and asked me what it was from, and I said it was from 9 months ago. He says, "Well, I forgot about that." And I says, "I don't ever forget." And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and I worked the local postmaster to the point where he finally just said, "Okay, Bill, I'm tired of fighting with you." He says, "You have too much going on this argument, for me to contest. I'm just paying it." And I says, "Here's a settlement form." He signed the settlement form, and the guy got paid the next pay period. I don't personally like the person, but it didn't matter because he's one of my fellow members. He's a brother in the union. He's a brother in the craft. If he wasn't in the union, I'd still fight for him the same way, because that's how much commitment I have into making sure that we are treated with justice, respect, and equally as grown adults. Like you said, we're all adults. Don't come over and try to belittle us. Don't try to come over and intimidate us. I had a supervisor used to come over and belittle people. One day she tried it on me, and I turned around and I said, "I'm not your kid. Don't you ever talk to me like that again." And she just stood there and got flushed. And I said, "Now, when you know how to talk to an adult, you come back to me." I said, "Otherwise, I will file for stress. I will call EAP. I'll walk out of this office in 5 minutes, and you'll see me in 2 weeks when I feel that you've learned your lesson." She didn't bother me for 2 weeks, but she never talked to me like that again either. if you don't stand up for yourself. And more importantly, if you don't stand up for others, your office will never get better. It will never improve. The environment will never improve. And that's what we want. We want to be able to come in, get us our mail, get us our flats, get us our parcel, get us our accountables. You have certain things that you're responsible to do. All you have to do is get the material to us. We'll work it, take it out, and deliver it. It's that simple. There is no need to come over and flex your management muscle to exert your authority over us. What management doesn't realize is that they may have authority over us, but they have a greater responsibility to us. And that's what they need to be reminded of. You know, these step fours that have been sitting on the table for years. I'm sorry, James, you're going to take every one of them and you're going to put them to bed ASAP, because enough of the bullshit and the haranguing, the delays for something as simple as you violated the contract, we need to be remedied.
There's no reason for one to be sitting there for 6 years, and there is no argument that leadership can make as to why it's been sitting there for 6 years. 2018, I know of a step 4 that's been sitting since 2018. That is not right. Now, leadership can turn around and say, we've been fighting the step 4s and so on and so forth, but just as many are coming in as the ones we're resolving. That's an excuse. If you're wanting to fight for these step 4s, you need to be stepping up, fighting them, or moving them to arbitration. Because otherwise, they're just going to sit in limbo, and carriers are going to wonder, are you even doing your job?
Mm-hmm.
And as director of steward operations, James, I also want you to get rid of the language of the settled grievances, saying this settlement will not be used in future settlements as a precedent. It is a
Gosh,
precedent. Once you've
y-
established that settlement, that sets a precedent for anything following.
yeah,
That is
non-binding
the biggest,
settlement. Yeah.
yeah, that is the biggest line of horseshit that management hides behind. And frankly, I've turned around and used the articles and arguments for previous grievances for my own, because guess what? Nobody management will go back and read the ones I pulled them from to find out that you're not supposed to be using them. But that's okay. I'll take advantage of management's ignorance, and I have quite often.
Yeah, any grievance that is made is a binding contract. Unless somebody turns around and writes in there, it's a non-binding contract. So whoever it is that settles them for non-binding language is incompetent in grievance arguing, because once you and management sign it, it becomes a legally binding document between the steward and management. So if you're not willing to make it binding so others can use it, what are you really fighting for?
You're giving management a wash, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's the settling for language. I don't know. I mean, at least put in a cease and desist rather than just a settling for language, because now they're like, oh, well, I got away with it this time. I'm going to be able to get away with it next time. I mean, at least at the bare minimum, you started a paper trail on settling for language, which I have to agree is just, there's a contract. You're intentionally violating the contract. Oh, well, yeah, the language is in there, so just don't do it anymore. How is that
You're
fixing anything?
you're violating already set language, and then you turn around and settle for language that already exists. That is the
Yep.
biggest mistake any person can make, is settling for language, because it's a complete slap on the wrist and telling management, it's okay, don't do it again.
And see, for everybody listening and anybody who will be listening to this podcast, if you listen to the interaction that we have and our response to the live stage comments and the DMs, the emails that we get. This is not just about electing us to the national board. This is about electing yourselves to the national board, because we will be available to listen to you. We will act on your concerns. It's not a matter of 9 people up there. They're the ones responsible for enacting and indoctrinating policy that affects over 100,000 lives. And then the people who are in those people's lives, the families, the children, the grandparents that are living with them, whoever. It's in fact, it's affecting approximately what, 300, 400,000 people in regards to what our union does for us.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we're not going to be a gang of 9 up there acting on our own interests. We're going to be there safeguarding your interests, your education, your paycheck. But we need your help too. We need to know the areas of concern that need to be addressed in which part of the country, at which little post office, which large parts of the post office. And that's what we're going to do. We will be available. We will not be abstract leaders. We will be your representatives. And that's what being elected to the national board is, to represent you, not ourselves. And as Jared just said, transparency. If we can't have transparency of our own national board, and we don't, how can we expect it from the post office?
I agree completely with that. And on top of that, not only are we running for national board, we're also turning around and we are writing our own binding and non-binding resolutions for our next national convention. We're looking forward to changing things not only as leadership, but also just as members of the craft. Just as you can file your binding and non-binding resolutions. We're not stopping trying to fix things just to run for office. We're still trying to fix them while running for office. And we're asking you guys to do the same. Do the same thing. Get the resolutions in there. Run for delegate. Vote for delegates. Get involved in your union. Find out who your designated union rep is. If you feel the need to, run to be your local union steward in your office. And it doesn't matter if you have 1 carrier in your office or you have 1,000 carriers in your office, or you're part of one of those new S&DCs. If there's a need in your craft, in that office, help it out, because we are the Rural Carrier Union. This craft, we are our brothers and sisters keepers, and we need to take care of each other.
Absolutely, guys. And I know we've all been on our soapboxes tonight, but I think we're going to start winding it down.
Well, I'm pretty much in agreement with a lot of the recent comments now coming through, that I'm not impressed with what our union has done so far. There's been no communication. There's been no transparency. They said that they were going to start updating us with these new YouTube videos, and they've posted all of 2. And the last one was right around Christmas time. We're not getting a lot of information from our own union. And of course, we're not going to get information from the post office because it would not benefit them. It would benefit us to actually have the information. We need to get something out there to go ahead and educate our coworkers here and our brothers and sisters in this union. That's why y'all started this podcast. That's why rollinfo.net started their website, because our union wants to put it behind a paywall. We shouldn't do that. We should create value so that people want to join the union and not get out of it like they're currently doing. I love the craft. I love the job. I love everything about it. But we do need a better union, and I think we can make it on our own. We have to step up. We have to vote in the right people. We have to go to our conventions and get these resolutions passed of what we want to see changed. We have to step up, all of us.
Absolutely agree with you on that. Josh, your final thoughts tonight?
Be safe this coming week. Don't get yourself overwhelmed. If you do, take a step back, take a deep breath, step back in. Have a good week. See you next time.
James.
Well, anybody can talk a big game. Anybody can make things look good just to get themselves elected. But not a lot of people will stand in front of people and say, point out my flaws and tell me about them. Let me know the mistakes I'm making, because the only way you grow is you learn from your mistakes. People make mistakes. We're only human. But at the end of the day, it's about the fight in that person to make things right, to make things better, to help, and to solve issues that people have. Because no matter what happens, no matter where things go, at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
Bill.
Well, I was thinking of the packet I received from our state, Thursday, and it's the biannual statement in regards to our dues check that we get from the state, membership, the amount of dues and everything else, the resolution forms that we hand out at our meetings, and I looked at the check and it was for $1,800 and some dollars, which was up over the $1,700 the range that I've been getting for the last 3 payments. And I looked at the dues payment page and I says, "Oh my God, we lost more members." Well, how did I get a bigger check? Well, because dues went up. And that's the problem with this union, is that we're losing members. And we're putting the financial burden on the rest of the craft that are our union paying dues members. And it's just sitting there, and I'm going like, okay, we're going to make more money by charging more people or less people more money for their dues. It's like paying for more taxes for people who are coming in this country not paying any taxes. It just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right. And I can understand certain reasons why people don't want to join the union. I would like to take this opportunity and encourage people to join the union, because then you have a voice. And like I often have said to Carolyn in our office about politics, and I don't care about this, I don't care about that, and then we get the political mail and she screams bloody murder about it, and I said, well, but you don't care about the election. And she goes, you're right. And she says, I haven't voted in like 20 years. And I said, that's the problem. The apathy. Apathy solves nothing. Involvement does. Having a voice, using that voice, stepping up to the plate and saying, the king is naked. If you don't bring your voice to the battle, if you're not in the union, you have no voice. You can rant and rave all you want on social media. It won't solve anything. If you want something done, join the union, get involved, make the effort. If your paycheck, your livelihood, your future is not worth that, then, that's on you. And I understand some people have reached the level of apathy where you can't bring them back. But for those who are questioning the value of being in the union, it is better to have a say than to have others speak for you, because they may not be speaking your voice, your concerns, the issues that you want addressed. If you want them addressed, you have to be able to speak. If you want to be able to speak, you must be in the union. I hate to be a union organizer here per se, but the fact of the matter is that's the only way you're going to institute change. With that, everybody go have a good week. Hope the weather's kinder to you this week coming up than it has been in the past couple. Everybody be safe. Do your job well. Do it efficiently, professionally. Get home safe. You're the most important delivery of the day. Get home to your loved ones.
Thank you, guys. Wow, I don't even know how to follow up with all that tonight. It has definitely been a mixed bag tonight, that's for sure. Again, everybody stay safe. I can't disagree with a single thing that any one of these gentlemen has said tonight. It's really touching, and I know they are all speaking from the hearts, and it's just as much as they do. I love my job. I love my route. I love my people. I love my dogs. I love the service I provide to my customers. I don't like the way that management treats us. I'm in this fight not just for my office, not just for myself, but every single one of you guys out there, every single one of you in the craft. And I've pretty much have dedicated my last several years to being more involved. And I was really, after I made now I have a big kind of announcement to follow up with here, guys, since the cat's out of the bag with the family. So after I made the announcement, New Year's, that I was going to run for office, I then had a big announcement at home that came about that really made me think I may not even go to national at all this year. But I was told that I need to go and I should go, even though I will be a grandmother either just before, just after, or possibly during national convention. So, cat's out of the bag with the family, so I can put it out there. But my daughter told me, Mom, you need to go. That's where you need to be, and we'll be okay at home. So that's my big announcement at the end. And
Great, huh?
Congratulations.
Thank you. So wasn't expected. It's still, but like I said, with further talk with the rest of the family, and as of right now, tentative due date is literally the day before national convention starts. I have been told, huh?
Have you picked your grandma's nickname yet?
No, not yet. No. But I talked to her more. I said, I won't go. I'll be here. She goes, no, Mom. She goes, if the roles were reversed, she goes, I would want to go. She goes, you need to go. She goes, that's where you need to be. This is what you need to do. You need to go. So yes, I am not canceling. I had thought about it. Seriously had thought about it. So as of right now, no, I am not canceling. I am still planning on going, and I'm still planning on running. So I just wanted to put that out there to everybody. That's kind of been the secret I've been trying to figure out, and had to let the rest of the family members know, as we all know the drama with my daughter. So, but again, like I said, I love my job. I love my craft. I love, the national board is not a retirement plan for me. I want to retire from my route, but I want to be able to assist every single carrier before I get to that point where I'm ready to retire. I want to be able to stand up for every single buddy. I want to be able to implement ways of better training our RCAs, not just academy, but at the end, the office training as well. Throwing them to the wolves after 3 days, even though, yes, we have the contractual language now of 2 full pay periods on their primary route. That's great. It's a starting point. But still, even after those 2 full pay periods, for some carriers, that may only be 4 days, that may only be 2 days, depending if they're on the J route. That doesn't mean that they're ready to be thrown to the wolves and thrown on another route or sent to another office, completely not even knowing fully what they are to do yet. And to me, I think we need more, and it's not necessarily the hand-holding, but I think it's just, as I've said it before, and I actually said a couple of years ago, more of a mentorship, seeing like I'm doing tomorrow morning with my RCA. He's been in there for going on a couple months. He started just around as Christmas was starting to gear up. I want to see where he's at. I want to find out where he's at, what he still needs to learn, where he still needs to go to make him better. He really enjoys the job. He loves the job. He likes the aspects of it, but how else can we get him to that level where he should be and work to progress to that level? And that's my goal, is to find some sort of way to do that across the board, across the country, for every RCA that walks in that door. So on that note, people, I want everybody to have a good, safe week out there, and we will be back next week.
Anyway, I can tell you where to put it, but that's not kosher.
Yeah, I gotta find something good for like the back end though, man. I'm gonna be a grandma.